The German Tiger tank, the epitome of World War II armor. It was a fearsome beast on the battlefield, a weapon designed to be unbeatable, with thick armor and a powerful gun that could decimate enemy tanks from long distances. But despite its fearsome reputation, the Tiger tank is often remembered as a weapon that ultimately failed. So why did this seemingly invincible machine fall short of expectations? In this video, we'll dive into the problems that plagued the Tiger tank, the struggles of its production, and how it stacked up against the Sherman, the workhorse of the Allied forces. In the early 1940s, the German military was facing increasingly advanced and numerous Soviet tanks on the Eastern Front. The T-34, with its superior mobility and sloped armor, shocked the Germans, leaving their Panzer III and Panzer IV tanks outmatched. The solution? A super-heavy tank that would dominate any battlefield. Thus, the Tiger tank was born in 1942, engineered to have thick, nearly impenetrable frontal armor and a powerful 88mm KWK-36 gun that could destroy enemy tanks from over a mile away. On paper, the Tiger was revolutionary. It could engage enemy armor well beyond the range of Allied and Soviet tanks. Its armor was so thick that it could shrug off most hits from the front, giving it a psychological edge over its opponents. But despite these advantages, the Tiger tank came with a host of problems that would hinder its performance. One of the major issues with the Tiger tank was its reliability, or rather, the lack of it. Weighing in at nearly 60 tons, the Tiger was a heavy and complex machine. Its size and weight put immense strain on its engine and transmission, which were prone to breakdowns, especially in the harsh conditions of the Eastern Front. The tank's suspension system was also vulnerable to damage, making it difficult to traverse rough terrain. Field repairs were a nightmare. The Tiger required a huge amount of maintenance to keep operational. Its engine often overheated, and its sheer weight meant it could easily get stuck in the mud or snow, particularly in the challenging landscapes of Russia. Often, more Tigers were lost to mechanical failures than enemy fire. The German supply lines were already overstretched, and the logistical burden of keeping the Tiger tanks running only made things worse. The Tiger tank wasn't just mechanically unreliable, it was also extraordinarily expensive to produce. Each Tiger tank required a massive amount of raw materials, time, and labor to build. While the Allies were producing thousands of Shermans and T-34s, the Germans could only build a fraction of the number of Tigers. In total, only around 1,350 Tiger I tanks were built during the war. In contrast, the Americans produced over 49,000 Shermans, and the Soviets rolled out over 80,000 T-34s. The sheer quantity of these Allied tanks meant that even if a Tiger could destroy several of them in battle, there were always more to take their place. The German economy simply couldn't sustain the production of these complex machines while also fighting a multi-front war. So how did the Tiger stack up against its most common Western opponent, the American Sherman tank? In a one-on-one battle, the Tiger was almost always superior. Its 88mm gun could penetrate the Sherman's armor from long distances, while the Sherman's 75mm gun could barely scratch the Tiger's frontal armor. But while the Tiger was a more powerful machine on the battlefield, the Sherman had several key advantages. First, the Sherman was far more mobile and reliable. It didn't break down nearly as often as the Tiger, and its lighter weight meant it could maneuver in areas where the Tiger couldn't. The Sherman was also much easier and faster to produce, allowing the Allies to overwhelm the Germans with sheer numbers. The strategy of the Allies was simple: quantity over quality. They knew that while the Tiger was a formidable opponent, it was also rare and vulnerable to breakdowns. The Allies could lose multiple Shermans and still come out on top because they could replace their tanks quickly, while the Germans could not. As the war dragged on, the flaws of the Tiger became even more apparent. By 1944, Germany was on the defensive, and the need for quick, mobile forces became critical. The Tiger, with its mechanical problems and limited numbers, couldn't keep up with the fast-paced nature of modern warfare. It was simply too slow, too unreliable, and too costly to have a decisive impact on the war's outcome. While the Tiger tank was a fearsome machine and remains a symbol of German engineering prowess, it was ultimately a failure in terms of its overall contribution to the war effort. Its high production costs, mechanical failures, and the overwhelming numerical superiority of Allied tanks like the Sherman ensured that the Tiger couldn't turn the tide of the war. The story of the Tiger tank is one of ambition and failure. It was a tank designed to be unbeatable, but in the end, its complexity and the realities of wartime production were its undoing. The lesson here is that sometimes simpler is better. The Allies understood that the key to winning the war wasn't in building the biggest, most powerful tank. It was in building a reliable machine that could be mass-produced and repaired easily in the field. And that's exactly what they did with the Sherman. So, while the Tiger may have been a terror on the battlefield, it wasn't enough to change the course of the war. A symbol of over-engineering, the Tiger tank remains a testament to the idea that war isn't just about having the best weapon, it's about having the right strategy, resources, and timing. If you enjoyed this deep dive into military history, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more stories of World War II and beyond.